A most warm welcome back to everyone in the Daggercraft community. This is lead developer Jar here, sitting in the main menu, slightly been updated, cycling through the millions of messages here. If you ever wanted to do this while in the main menu, just hit Control and R and you can see everything that can show up here. Lots of sleeping, Skyrim, the Underking. Anyway, the point of this video is, of course, a developer showcase, sort of game mode that I'm concepting, that I'd like to gauge public interest on and get any feedback if I can. The world failed to load. Don't worry about that. It happens. So we'll just give it a go one more time. So we're gonna load into our world here. Okay, a bit of a chaotic start, but nothing too bad has happened so far. So here we are in a random village with some interesting looking NPCs walking about. So we should really give this village a name. I see stone, I see clouds, and I see cliffs. So here we are in Cloudstone Cliffs, standing next to King Cameron of Sentinel, and next to an interesting looking shrine. So if you've been around on the server a bit, or around Daggercraft in general, you might have known that I concepted a sort of PvP game, or PvP-centric game mode, a while ago, heavily inspired by dwarves versus zombies. What I've decided to do was remove the zombies aspect of that, and center it around two factions of dwarves instead. The goal of the dwarves, or the objective, is to protect the shrines, of course, and they do that by crafting items, mostly weapons, armor, and by also building bases. They basically build their own base around their shrine, and then defend it. So, this is a great expansion around that idea, or my idea of dwarves versus dwarves. And that's not what the game mode's going to be called here. We're going to be calling it dwarves versus dwarves, just for its namesake. And the idea is there's going to be a master shrine at each faction spawn, which is going to be the Kingdom of Sentinel and Daggerfall, which are canonical factions in Daggerfall's lore that I've used before on servers, but we're going to be using them to fight against each other. Whenever a player joins a server, they're going to have a choice to pick one of two factions, Sentinel or Daggerfall. I might have some sort of auto-balancing system for that as well. That seems more appealing to me because either faction actually has some interesting differences. They're asymmetrical. They're not completely one-to-one even, but they're balanced as far as I can tell, with no testing or limited amount of testing available. So each faction is gonna, or each player is gonna choose their faction side, and then spawn at their main spawn, which for Sentinel's case is the town of Cloudstone Cliffs. Here is gonna be a Master Shrine which has a ton of health, and if the enemy comes over and kills it, it takes a while to respawn, and they drop an insane amount of XP and money, which we'll get into money more later. This thing has 10,000 health, so it's no pushover, and it also spawns enemies whenever you attack it. So no one really needs to be around for it to be defended, but it is better if players are around, of course. The main function of these shrines, of course, is that you are able to purchase things from them, and also get money from them through selling. You can exchange money, you can buy waystones. I'm thinking of completely disabling homes and warp systems, and instead encouraging the use and purchase of waystones, such as this one here. You can also buy smaller shrines, which is a very interesting aspect. So that means in our contained world, I'm thinking of making this playable on a sort of confined world, maybe, hold on, I'm just realizing all those NPCs are hiding underneath a rock because they're all set to hide from darkness. So let's get them over here real quick. The great migration of town NPCs. So anyway, it's going to be maybe a confined world, maybe I'm thinking maybe 2,000 by 2,000 world border. That seems kind of small when I think about it, but I have flown around a 2K squared world, and it is bigger than you think. So within this world, players can build structures and be incentivized to place their own faction shrines within them, which will be a thing for its inhabitants to protect, maybe a way shrine too. So we'll just name this Town 1. just so people can warp to it easily. These shrines can also give you coins, and you can also basically earn money off of them is the main thing. They have less health, the smaller shrines, and they grant less coins as well whenever you kill them. You, of course, cannot buy other shrines from this. That seems a little bit overpowered. So whatever a player builds, they'd hopefully be incentivized to place both way shrines and these faction shrines in their towns to be able to protect and for enemies to attack. Now you may be asking, what exactly do I need money from these shrines for, and why should I be incentivized to protect them? Well, there are many things that can be brought with money in this game, of course, and the main thing, which has been a feature requested...
I like this.
I do like this. You don't have to like it, though. The main thing, a feature that's been requested of players for the longest time is purchasable NPCs, which is exactly what you are seeing here. And this is also things that can help cultivate a shrine, of course, NPCs to complement it, and also protect shrines. Back at the faction spawn, you'll have a couple NPCs where you can buy other NPCs from. Just have to give them a second. Custom NPCs takes a while to load shops that have NPCs that are also shops within them, so you can buy things such as the captain, an archmage, and a spy master, and a siege merchant from the main king NPC. These won't be attackable. Basically, I'd want players to focus...
Well, what have we here?
Yes, very interesting. I want all players' attention centered around attacking these shrines. And hopefully not sheep.
What assistance do you need?
So, King Cameron, of course, has some NPCs. The Noble NPC will have some more general NPCs to sell. Showcasing the King's NPCs first, he has NPCs that you can buy other NPCs from. There's the Archmage,
light on spells.
which sell mostly magical things. Most notably, things for crafting Ars Magica spells, which has always been a very popular feature of Daggercraft. There's also combat NPCs that are magical related that you can purchase from the Archmage. To showcase a couple of those, or the NPCs you can buy from the Archmage, there's the Alchemist.
I'll do what I can.
Alchemical related stuff. The Spellcrafter spells mostly things related to crafting Ars Magica spells. There is Magical Gear, sells some valuable magical gear, and the Enchanter. There's also the other civilian class NPCs, such as the Innkeeper, who sells tons of food. A farmer where you can get different types of crops from in order to start farming. You can basically get, or all of these are effectively, you can get any seed from any sort of crop using this shop here. And you'll be incentivized to...
What assistance do you need?
Sell these crops to the nobility. As you can see here, he buys a couple different types of crops. There's also the butcher, who buys meats and sells animal eggs. Very, very useful. There's the armor smith, sells armor. Very self-explanatory. The weaponsmith sells
but good decisions are better.
sells weapons, of course. And there's also the master smith. And he also buys valuable weapon crafting items as well. One of the many ways to make money, of course, and these guys will all help basically flesh out a town. These are all part of the civilian faction. Everything you see that's green. They won't be attacked by either Daggercraft or Daggerfall or the Sentinel factions, because it didn't really make sense to me for the enemy, or for the opposing faction's AI to attack random civilians that are kind of just neutral. However, they are attacked by enemy mobs, so that is another thing you have to protect using either player presence or the aforementioned guards or combat NPCs that you can purchase in the game. So that's generally it for all the civilian utility related NPCs that you can purchase from the nobility, which are very useful for fleshing out a town and giving you ways to earn money, of course. But they are generally defenseless by themselves, which is where the faction-related NPCs will be coming in. There is first the Siege Merchant,
Look sharp.
which sells you things for fortifying your keeps a little bit better. It will sell you ancient warfare structures, which are good for any sort of keep and defenses. And also things for not just building keeps, but also assaulting keeps, such as TNT, ladders, things of the sort. Next is the Archmage,
Let us talk business.
which sells you magical-related NPCs. Some of these were the civilians that we got before, but there's also combat-related magical NPCs, such as the Healer and the Ice Mage. And there's also the Captain for both factions, which sells more basic combat-related NPCs. I'm actually missing someone. I think it's because this NPC is set to hide from daylight. Let's find this person real quick. The Spy Master. There you are. She's hiding underneath a tree. This is one of the AIs I decided to differentiate. Why is she? Oh my gosh, all the way down there. Okay. Let's reset real quick and find out where she went. Maybe she'll find a door to walk into, hopefully. Okay, find a house. Go to a house. Don't. Okay. Let's try here. Okay, walk into a house. Go in there. Okay, that works. That works. It's fine. Okay, so the Spy Master sells more thief and assassin-related objects. The Alchemist Merchant doesn't sell any damage spells, or damage potions, sorry. Any sort of damage potions, more utility and buff potions, but the Spy Master will sell more poisons, weakness, instant damage, invisibility, very useful. And also other thievy-related equipment, of course, but also the Assassin combat NPC, which works a little bit differently from other combat-related NPCs, more reliant on stealthing to its stealthing, I guess is how you'd put it, stealthing toward its opponents instead of just attacking straight forward. Here's a general look at most of the combat-related NPCs for the Sentinel faction, of course. They will not, as opposed to all the civilian NPCs and utility ones, they won't retreat from either enemy faction combatants or mobs. They will charge forward and attack them. You can also hire them to follow you, of course. And you can make them wait in areas if you need them to strategically guard any sort of position, such as an NPC's shop from enemy mobs, or around the shrine to protect it, of course. So these combat-related NPCs would be useful for defending your builds, towns, your shrines, and your other NPCs, of course. But how useful are they in attacking? Well, I do have a fine example somewhere over here. So if we head out over here to more distant lands, through the fog it should be, we'll see that I have an enemy, I guess, an opposing Daggerfall structure. Should be appearing any second. There we go. So this is a sort of keep, and they have some strategically placed NPCs guarding it, of course. But thankfully, I am temporarily a member of the Sentinel faction, and I've brought me some guards that I've purchased and ordered to follow me. So this will be the main gameplay around this game mode, is getting a lot of NPCs or commanding a lot of NPCs into battles. Alright, so those guards are kind of getting destroyed by those archers. So we're going to have some other archers flank. And this is all things that players themselves will be able to control. So you don't really need an especially high player population to have this be possible. Now that the Sentinel warriors have taken out all the Daggerfall guards, they are free to destroy the shrine. But it's probably better if players themselves destroy it, because they will get the rewards, of course, or the drops that come from the shrine. These guys kind of are effective at doing that. So we'll just go ahead and take them out there. And every shrine will have a chance to drop some coins. I think it gave me some silver there. but most critically it will drop a shrine point, which this is the coin that you have to use to buy other shrines. You can't just buy them with regular coins. So let's say, I'm going to freeze these NPCs real quick, a contingent of Sentinel combatants have broken through all Daggerfall's lines and are now making a push to attack the Master Shrine. This is an example of that happening. So the player place shrines are going to have to... they are forced to guard their shrines with either a player presence or a guard presence that they have placed there themselves, any sort of fortifications that they have. We'll do some healers too. Whatever it is they build around those shrines that they placed. For the Master Shrine at their spawns, it's going to have a protected area around it so no one can just tunnel into it. And also, it guards itself, so it is not entirely a desperate situation. And no one can just walk in and yoink it, and it would basically screw in an entire faction. Indicated by the fact that the Sentinel army is kind of losing this battle badly, these guys are pretty overpowered, so it takes a really, really powerful person who's either grinded their way or skilled their way or built their way into being able to take down or take on the Master Shrine, which is basically the end-all goal. The Master Shrine, once you kill it, I'll just take this and say that the Sentinel has won that battle. It gives you a lot of shrine points, and at least a gold coin, I'm pretty sure. A ton of XP too. And also a defeat theme, of course. So that is going to be basically the main incentive. The end game goal is fighting the Master Shrines, which players, besides the immediate protected area around the Master Shrines, players will also be able to fortify the spawn town itself. So we'll say there's like a 10 block radius around this that they can't break into, and the Daggerfall NPCs, or the King NPC and the Nobility NPC will be there, but not attackable. It'll be that area, and then the area immediately around it is where players can build fortifications, and then anywhere else in the world they will be incentivized to go set up shop and farm resources, or set up their own towns where they can place their shrines, which allows them to farm more resources, or of course trade in the NPC shops. So anyways, that is a very rough demonstration of how I'd like that game mode to work. It would be more made obvious and put into practice once put on a server and people are allowed to tinker with it, and it will also be determined how better balanced it is, I think, there. But anyway, leave your responses either in the comments or on the Discord themselves. I would like feedback. I would like to gauge interest on this sort of game mode. It seems to combine basically every aspect I think anyone's ever liked about Daggercraft as a server, and also encourages more PvP elements, which I felt was always sorely missing. People would get really powerful but have no incentive to attack each other, mostly because we're all nice, and I've always had items or keep inventory on. I think for this iteration I'm going to have keep inventory off to encourage the use of not only in-game storage or storing items in just normal containers around the world, but also using the banks and protecting the banks, of course, and also to encourage other players to be fighting each other for their loot. And there's not going to be any sort of virtual money system in this. It's all going to be through coins, so that's another thing, is you can lose your coins through gameplay that way, either spending them or people kill you or rob you, of course. So a more thorough explanation I think I can put through text. So the Black Horse Courier post associated with this should go into a little more detail on certain aspects of how the server runs, of course. But in the meantime, I would need any sort of feedback to either be relayed through the comments or on the Discord. I'd like to have community interest gauged in a reliable way. If people are either interested in playing this or seeing if it's even something that'd be fun to people, or if anyone even has specific ideas for how certain things should work, or any sort of mechanics that I'm either missing out on or forgetting or introducing or haven't paid enough attention to. even if something like this doesn't get used, there's a lot of lessons and a lot of NPC work that I could probably use in other ways as well. Anywho, this has been another Daggercraft community showcase in the books. I'd like to thank everyone for being a part of this wonderful community, and I appreciate any feedback presented. Thanks for watching, and take care.